Here we have page 1 of the form, and this form is predominantly filled out by the U.S. citizen. Just to clarify for this form, the sponsor is the U.S. citizen, and the principal immigrant is the beneficiary, i.e. the non-U.S. citizen. So let me show you how we filled out our I-864 form. On page 1, part 1, the basis of filing the Affidavit of Support, it asks, I am the sponsor submitting this Affidavit of Support because, and we selected box 1A. I am the petitioner. I filed or am filing for the immigration of my relative, i.e., I'm filing on behalf of my now husband. Part 2 continues to ask information about you, the sponsor, i.e. the U.S. citizen. So for question 1, I wrote my last name, my first name, and just wrote NA for middle name as it doesn't apply. On page 2, part 2, question 2, it asks for my current mailing address. So I entered my name, my street address, the city I live, the state, the zip code, and selected country as United States. Question 3 asks, is your current mailing address the same as your physical address? As it is, I check the yes box. If you do answer no, then you can fill out question 4 with your physical address, which is where you reside. Question 5 asks my country of residence, which is United States. Question 6 asks for my date of birth. And question 7 asks for my country of birth, which is United States. Question 8 asks for my U.S. Social Security number, so I filled that out here. Question 9 asks for my immigration status. I was born in the United States, so I checked I am a U.S. citizen. And I wrote NA for question 10 and 11, as I do not have an A number nor a USCIS online account number. Question 12 asks if I am currently on active duty in the United States Armed Forces or U.S. Coast Guard, so I check no. Part 3 asks information about the principal immigrant. So once again, that is my husband, the non-U.S. citizen who is my beneficiary. So for question 1, I filled out his last name, his first name, and wrote NA for middle name. Question 2 asked for his mailing address, which is our address, so I filled out the street number and name, the city, which is Orlando, the state, Florida, our zip code, and country is United States. Question 3, which is other information, it asks for his country of citizenship or nationality. So I wrote down United Kingdom, as this is where he is from. Question 4, I wrote down his date of birth. Question 5 asks for his A number, alien registration number, which can be found on your NOAA 2. And question 6 asks for his USCIS online account number. And once again, you'll receive this online account number after submitting these forms to USCIS. Question 7 asks for his phone number, and if your beneficiary doesn't have a phone number, you can just put down your number for the time being. Part 4 asks information about the immigrants you are sponsoring. So I checked the yes box for I am sponsoring the principal immigrant named in Part 3. Question 4, where it asks family member 1, you do not need to fill out as you've already entered the information above. So we just wrote NA. On page 4, where it asks family member 2, 3 and 4, we just typed in NA as it does not apply to us. Part 5 asks for the sponsor's household size. So question 1 asks for the number of persons you are sponsoring in this affidavit. It asks you to enter the number of immigrants that you are sponsoring, which includes the principal immigrant listed in Part 3. So I wrote 1, as I am sponsoring just my husband or beneficiary. It then asks persons not sponsored in this affidavit. So for question 2, I wrote down number 1, as I am not sponsoring myself. And then for question 3, I wrote 0, as I have already included my spouse beforehand. And questions 4 through 7 do not apply to us, so I typed in 0. Question 8 asks add together items number 1 through 7. So the total household size is 2, and it should be for you too if you're in a similar situation to us. Part 6 asks for the sponsor's employment and income. So that would be the petitioner's employment and income. So for question 1, I checked the box employed as a, and I inserted my role here. For question 2, I wrote the name of my employer. I left question 3 blank and question 4 blank, as I am not self-employed and I do have an employer. For questions 5 and 6, I wrote NA, as I'm not retired or unemployed. And then for question 7, I put my annual income. Now, everyone's circumstances are different, but we meet the federal poverty guidelines for income requirements. So we don't need a joint sponsor, and I'm able to financially support my husband, beneficiary, without any additional support. So therefore, as it's only my income that we're using, then on the next page for questions 8, 9, 10, and 11, we wrote NA. Once again, for question 12, it calculates the total annual household income. So in our case, that was just the number as above that we entered in question 7. So for question 12, that's my income as a whole. Question 13 and 14 did not apply to us. Question 15 asks, have you filed a federal income tax return for each of the 3 most recent tax years? So I checked yes, as I am a W-2 employee and I do have an employer. The instructions say that you must attach a photocopy or transcript of your federal income tax returns for the most recent tax year and complete question 16A. In our case, just to be thorough, we actually provided the tax information for the most recent 3 years. The instructions do state that if you believe additional returns may help you establish your ability to maintain sufficient income, you may submit transcripts or photocopies of your federal income tax returns for the 3 most recent years and complete items numbers 16A through 16C. So we, in 16A to 16C, included the total income as listed on the IRS tax return. To get your IRS tax transcript, you'll log on to irs.gov. On the home page, you'll click Sign into your account. You're going to select Individual, Sign into Online Account. You can either create a new account or sign into an existing one. Once signed in, you'll go on to the Records section and click on View Tax Records. You'll then hit the Get Transcripts Online button. In the drop-down box that asks you to select a reason, you can choose Immigration. And for the customer file number, you can leave that blank and hit Go. And then you can select your transcript from the Return Transcript section. Once you click on one of the years, you can either print or download these forms. We then left question 17 intentionally blank. The next little section is for USCIS only. Part 7 asks if your income or the total income for you and your household from Part 6 exceeds the federal poverty guidelines for your household size. You are not required to complete this part, so we can skip to the next part. So as you can see, we just wrote NA for the fields 1 through 5 as we met the poverty guidelines, and I'm able to financially support my husband without a joint sponsor or any additional assistance. Of course, your case may vary, so your form may look a little different, and you would just need to adjust that accordingly to your income needs. On page 8, as you can see, we added NA as this does not apply to us. Part 8 starts stating some information regarding the I-864 contract and continues throughout page 9. And then on page 10, it asks for the sponsor's acknowledgement. So we checked box 1A, that I can read and understand English and that I have read and understood every question and instruction on this affidavit. For 1B, I just put NA, as we didn't use an interpreter, and the same for question 2. Question 3 and 4 asked for my contact number, and then for question 5, I wrote down my email address. At the bottom of page 10, it asked for my signature, i.e. the U.S. petitioner. So once again, remember to print out this form and fill out the signature by hand, as USCIS does not accept typed signatures. And if you haven't signed this form, they will reject your application. Then, next to the signature, I wrote today's date. For part 9, it asks, similar to the previous forms, for the interpreter's information. So as we didn't use an interpreter, we just wrote NA for everything. And as we didn't use a preparer, we also wrote NA for that. The final page is part 11, for additional information if you needed additional space. We didn't need any additional space, but just remember to fill in question 1 with your name, as it is still part of the form, and you need to submit it along with your application, even if you didn't use the spaces. Now we will move on to the supporting evidence required for this form. We included 1040s for the past 3 years, 2024, 2023, and 2022. On each page, we wrote the petitioner's name, the applicant's name, and a number, and titled the form, even though it's clearly visible that it's the 1040 tax return. Next, we included the IRS tax transcripts for the past 3 years and labeled each document accordingly. We then included W-2s for the past 3 years. The next document was a letter from my employer verifying my employment that states my position, salary, hire date, and employee status. We tried to provide as much information and documentation as we could, as we wanted to avoid receiving a request for evidence. So we found it better to include as much relevant information as we could, rather than solely include the bare minimum. We then included pay stubs from the past 6 months. Then we included a letter from my bank stating the opening date of the account, total amount deposited, and also the present balance. We included the petitioner's passport biographic page, and titled it Proof of U.S. Sponsors U.S. Citizenship. Our aim was to just make sure everything was as easy as possible for USCIS to read and acknowledge. I also included a copy of my birth certificate too.